Hi, Steve Draper here in my workshop, Bellevue, Nebraska. Today we're going to do the setup and alignment on your jointer. So the first thing you need to do when you work on your jointer, you want to make sure that the axles here on the head of the jointer and also here on your headstock are lined up so you can put that coupler on correctly. So the first thing you're going to need to do that is after you have positioned your jointer here, you need to remove these two safety covers here and also this safety cover here. Also uses a 1/8 inch Allen wrench. And for this guard here, you'll need to use your 5/32 for that. There's two screws right here that screw into the cover. And of course, this is a one-time operation. Once you get this set up, you'll never have to do this again. Here on setting up your jointer for the alignment on it to check it, we've got the jointer positioned in here without the fence. And we also want to remove this guard, which normally is right here. There's two screws. You want to remove that guard and also the guard that goes here on your headstock. You want to have that removed also to get this set up properly. Now, after you have mounted it on your mounting tubes on here, you want to put the hubs on, and there's three hubs you need to put on. The one here that has the hole does not go all the way through, that one's going to go here on your bottom spindle here on your headstock. So that's going to go on here, and you have it line up with the flat here, and that'll go on there, and you'll tighten up the set screw here with your 5/32 wrench. You want to get that really tight. Use the short end here to get a little more leverage so you get that on there really good. Next, of the other two, the shorter of the two here, which has a smaller diameter hole, that's going to go here on your jointer itself. And again, you're going to line up the set screw with the flat here. When you position it here, make sure that you have this flush with the end of the shaft. Don't have it out here with the shaft protruding. Have it here flush with the end. And then you're going to tighten up the set screw there just like you did on the other one. And then lastly, you'll put the top one on. That's the very longest of the three, and that will go up here. And there's, again, you'll line up the screw with the flat. This one you do want to have it go all the way on. Now, we're going to check the alignment between these two to make sure they line up perfectly. Now, we slide the headstock as close as we can to the jointer and looking straight down over the top. If it's lined up correctly, these two spindles should be exactly aligned with you horizontally. You can see this edge here is the same, and this edge over here is lined up the same. So we've got this lined up correctly horizontally. If yours does not line up, then you're going to have to loosen the two set screws on your jointer on the tubes to adjust it going left or right. These are where the two set screws are that the the tubes go up into the jointer. So if you need to adjust this, you'll have to loosen this set screw and this one right here, and then you can shift the jointer to the left or the right, however you need to. And you may need to have to actually take it off of the tubes and then rotate the tubes to do that. But once you get that horizontal set, then we've got to go look at the vertical. Now here, looking at the vertical adjustment, you can see here that these hubs are exactly aligned vertically. If they're not aligned vertically, then you're going to have to adjust where the joiner is on those tubes. You can do this if you have a second person to hold up on your jointer, pull it up until these are exactly even each other, and then the other person would have to tighten your screw if you have two people. If you're by yourself, you can do it if you have spacer blocks. So for example here, I have an 11/32 spacer block, which happens to be the exact amount that I need for mine, and I just put an 11/32 spacer block on each side, and then I could do it by myself. So if you don't have spacer blocks, then you'll need another person to lift up and do that adjustment for you. Once you have these aligned, then you're able to put the coupler on to attach your headstock to your joiner. Now, one end has a spring on it, and the other does not. The end that does not have the spring will go on your joiner, like that, and then you'll slide the headstock over, and you'll turn this until the splines here align perfectly on the hub here, and it goes all the way in as far as you can, and then you'll tighten the lock on the headstock. And that's the position that it'll be in when you're going to use it. But for now, we're going to disconnect them to continue with the rest of the alignment and setup on the joiner. With the hubs aligned, now I'm going to put the guard back onto the joiner itself. And there's two screws. You'll need a 1/8 inch Allen's wrench for these screws. At this point, we're going to put the fence back on. Now, this pin that's right here is right in there. Okay, you want to make sure that that's all the way pressed back in, or you won't be able to get this slid on properly. And we're just going to slide this back on here. You slide it until we get it about so that's resting on there. And then you want to pull the handle all the way out to tighten that into position. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go check all our settings here on the joiner itself. Now we're going to check the knives to make sure that they're set properly in the head. And so we want to pull this out of the, keep this out of the way. One good way to do it is you can just take a square here, and that'll hold that back out of the way. So you want to remove the blade from your combination square because we're going to use that here. And what we're going to do is you want to make sure that you want to put your blade of your combination square on the out feed end here, and then by hand we'll turn the knives around, and it should just barely touch that bottom of that blade and cause it to move maybe a 32nd or a 16th of an inch. And that's what it's doing here. When I turn it by hand, it just barely moves this blade. You want to do it on both ends of the knives. And if the knives are set correctly, it'll do that. And it is here on mine. So I check all three knives. And I can actually hear and feel it just barely grabbing that and moving it about a 32nd or a 16th of an inch. Now, if it moves this more than a 16th of an inch, that means that your knives are too high. And if it doesn't move it at all, that means your knives are too low. And you'll need to look in your instruction manual. It teaches you in there what to do to go in there and make the adjustment on those knives. But once you've got these, make sure those are done correctly. We want to set our 0 on our depth adjustment, and that's right here. Okay, right now it says a 32nd of an inch. Well, I want to set where the 0 needs to be on that. And to do that, we're going to take the knob here, and you will turn it counterclockwise as we're looking on it, and it'll move that up. And we're going to hold the blade here on the outfeed side until that's right up there even. That's my 0 point. And if that's set correctly, this should, okay, I've got to bring that up just a hair more. There. Now that's my 0 point for my jointer. So now you want to look down here at the pointer. Now mine says it's marked right on 0. If yours is not marked on 0, you need to get a flat tip screwdriver, loosen this screw right here, and make your adjustment on the arrow on the pointer so that it points right at 0. Now we're going to check to make sure that our fence is 90 degrees to the table, and that's done using the 90-degree stop. Right here you can see the 90-degree stop that you want to have set properly. Now there is a screw on here, right here, that you would use to adjust the setting on that stop. But you want to make sure that the fence is set right on that stop. Once you have your fence set on that 90-degree stop, and of course you do that here on the handle, you know, if you have the handle all the way pulled out, that's where we slide the fence back and forth. That's not the one you want to use to do the 90-degree stop. You have to have this pushed all the way in, and then you loosen this to set it on the 90-degree stop. So once you have it set there, you want to take a square, put it right here. You want this fence to be exactly square. There should be no light whatsoever showing between the fence and the blade, and this is perfect right here. Once you have it there, you know you have that 90-degree stop set properly. The next setting you want to do is each of the 45-degree stops. So we want to loosen the handle here. And we want to do the stop that is 45 degrees this way. So we'll pull back the stop, put our fence, close the stop, push the fence back against the stop, and tighten it up. Now to check this one, you want to use a from your combination square. Now, if you have the large one like this is for the 12-inch, you're not going to have very much length here on this blade. So it works better if you have a 6-inch because you can get that in there further. So we take the blade out of the 6-inch, set the 6-inch in there, and if it's set properly, if your stop is set properly, you're going to have no light at all there between the blade here and the guide on the fence on your jointer. So this is set perfectly here. If it's not, you're going to have to go over here to make the adjustment on your adjustment screw. Now we're going to do the 45-degree stop in the other direction. So we'll loosen this again. Take off our stop. We want to move it back 45 in this direction. Tighten that up. Now to do this one, we're going to use the longer one here, but you want to turn your combination, the head of it. You want to use from the 12-inch, put it up on this direction, and put it right up against the fence. And it should be touching all the way along the length of there on your joiner fence, so that when that's correctly. If that's not doing it correctly, you'll have to make adjustment on the adjustment screw back there. Now, you need a 3/32 Allen wrench to adjust that one back there. So now that we've done that, we're going to move this back to 90 degrees. I'm going to move the fence back to 90. Put our stop on. Tighten it up. And you want to, just initially, you want to position this fence so that you've got most of the blade on your head of your joiner exposed. We'll just double check this one more time. Okay, yep, it's square. So the last thing that we want to do for our setup is we want to get some paste wax. And you want to use a good quality paste wax. I still have some of the Johnsons, but Minwax also works very well. And you want to take and apply wax to all of the surface here, infeed and outfeed, and your fence, and buff that out completely. Also, you want to remove this fence, and you'll do that here by pulling the handle out and slide the fence outward. And you want to put wax on here and buff that out as well, so that this is going to slide easily. Then you want to put it back on. Now when you put it back on, there is a pin that sticks out that you'll need to depress. I'm just going to put this back in here. Okay, there we are. So that's in. Let's position this back about right there. And now that's tight. All right. Now, the last thing we want to do is we want to connect it, make sure that it's working okay. So make sure that down here that you do this lock. It's this hard to see. It's this one right down here. Make sure that you've got this locked in place. And now we want to put our guards back on. And lastly is to put this guard back on. Now we're going to put the coupler on to connect to the jointer to our headstock. Now the end with the spring will go towards the headstock. So you want to put the other end on the jointer first. Push it all the way on. I'm going to slide the headstock over. There we go. You should feel it go all the way in there. And then lock your headstock into place. Okay, that wasn't in there. There we go. You'll feel it click in there. Then you'll be able to turn that by hand and the cutter will turn. So now we've got the setup all complete for starting to use your jointer.